Just how poor are these two women? They secretly pick up the scattered grains dropped from the cart carrying food in front of them, because their home suffered from severe flooding this year. All the potatoes planted in the ground rotted away, making it nearly impossible to maintain even basic living, as the eldest son Patsy stares blankly at the ferry heading to Australia across the sea. A bold idea begins to form in his mind. Soon after, the family returns from the fields and happens to come across a wealthy merchant whose carriage is stuck in a ditch, and the merchant takes the initiative to ask for help. But after introducing themselves, they realize the merchant is English, while Patsy's father is Irish. The relationship between the two regions has always been tense, and with English soldiers collecting rent in nearby villages, Patsy's father is unwilling to lend a hand, but the merchant immediately offers money as a reward. After a brief hesitation, the merchant quickly agrees to Patsy's demand of £0.50, yet the father looks troubled, as he would rather let his family go hungry than earn money from an Englishman. But his eldest son does not see it that way, as just a bit of labor could free the carriage. More importantly, earning £0.50 would be enough for the family to survive for a while, so why not take such an opportunity? In the end, with Patsy's effort, the carriage is successfully freed from its predicament. After struggling up from the muddy water, according to their agreement, the merchant should hand over the payment, but a merchant is still a merchant, and promises are not easily kept.
I'm afraid I don't have a £0.50 about me.
£0.50 suddenly turns into a guinea, which is somewhat hard to accept, but fortunately it is a gold sovereign coin, so Patsy does not argue further. However, after the merchant leaves in his carriage, when Patsy is about to hand the coin to his father, the father remains firm. The father never accepts money that feels like charity, and after snatching the coin from his son, he throws it straight into the water. This makes Patsy unable to tolerate his father's stubborn pride. His grandmother also warns him that pride can never satisfy one's needs, but Patsy ignores this, believing that what he earns through his own effort must be taken back with his own hands. So he goes to the water to search, and under the watchful eyes of his younger siblings, he finally finds the coin, and this very object will change their lives forever. Soon after, the four of them visit an even poorer farming family, planning to buy their sow with 1 guinea. Although the pig is the family's lifeline, they know that turning it into cash can better solve their problems, so they painfully agree to sell it. On the way home, the four siblings begin to fantasize about eating pork for an entire week, but as the eldest brother, Patsy thinks differently. He wants to raise the sow to be bigger and sell it for a better price, so they can achieve their dream of emigrating to Australia. As time passes, even when they find edible potatoes while working in the fields, they cannot bear to eat them and save everything for the sow at home. Though life is poor, the four siblings feel happy and look forward to the pig growing up quickly. Soon half a year passes, and Patsy leads the now fattened sow to the market and successfully sells it. Looking at the distance between here and Australia on the map, they feel a real sense of possibility for the first time, but reality is completely different from imagination. The father is still struggling with how to pay the rent owed to the English. Although they live in Ireland, the land belongs to Britain, and they must pay rent every year. With a poor harvest this year, the rent is far from enough, so all hope rests on the money from the pig. But Patsy has secretly sold the sow, and he explains that after asking the immigration office, as long as they pay £8, the whole family can go to Australia. However, the father does not see it that way, as generations of his family have lived here.
You think I'd let the English drive us from this land, to roam the world like some wretched Jew man, and never know a home? I want that pig, Patsy.
It's sold.
When he hears that his son has sold the pig, the father is furious and slaps him hard across the face. To calm her husband's anger, the mother steps forward and removes the only valuable ring she has, hoping to use it to pay the rent. This is the mother's helpless way of protecting her son, but it is met with a harsh refusal from her husband. The air is filled with grief, and no one can change the decision of the head of the family. Patsy can only take a small amount of money from his pocket and hand it to his father, but it is far from enough. His father demands that he hand over everything, and Patsy's eyes are filled with despair.
Dad, you just see sense. Money.
Give me all of it.
No!
A single conflict between father and son causes Patsy's grandmother to collapse from overwhelming stress, bringing her to the brink of death. All the children can do is stay by her side and pray. At this moment, in her final breath, the old woman tells Patsy that she hopes he will obey his father's arrangement and pay this year's rent to the English. After all, this land is their true root. To let his grandmother pass away in peace, Patsy has no choice but to agree to this difficult request. But unexpectedly, he turns around and goes straight to the immigration office. After burying his grandmother, the final day to pay the rent arrives. The British officials never see the family show up, and are forced to take action. The two siblings cannot bear to watch, as just for failing to pay the rent, the British burn down their house. The mother cries out in heartbreak nearby, and the father is filled with anger at his son's actions. The rent that should have been paid to the British has been used by Patsy to buy tickets to Australia. Now the old father refuses to accept fate, but there is nothing he can do. After weeks of sailing, the family finally travels from Ireland to New South Wales in Australia, and they even purchase a carriage along the way, but in a completely unfamiliar place. They do not know how to find a place to settle. They have a relative in the family who moved to Australia with his whole family in 1853. And they had written to this uncle in advance. It has been 20 years since they last met, and only the older generation can still recognize each other, while the younger ones have no memory of this distant relative. However, having family accompany them on the journey is enough to bring them comfort. At this moment, a large flock of crows suddenly appears in the sky. Crows have always symbolized misfortune, but Patsy's family are Catholics, and they believe this is a sign of divine care and guidance for their souls. But is that really the case? After another 2 days of travel, they finally arrive at a nearby town. The sight of the streets is striking and unsettling. Some indigenous people are bound in chains, turned into prisoners to be traded by white settlers. There are also many people with braided hair appearing on the streets from time to time. After asking the driver, Patsy learns that they are all gold seekers from China, each carrying dreams of wealth, opening the eyes of the newly arrived family. Soon, the carriage arrives at the farm where the uncle works. Hearing the commotion, the uncle's wife quickly calls the children out to greet them, her enthusiasm overflowing. But before they can even rest, a burly man approaches and orders them to go meet the farm owner. It turns out the uncle works here and has helped arrange jobs for Patsy's family at the farm. After briefly introducing himself and his wife, the farm owner hands the job arrangements over to the foreman. The foreman takes a quick look at their physical condition, then orders the 3 men to do manual labor, while the remaining 3 women are assigned to the farm owner's wife. The family is now officially settled in Australia, but before starting work, they must first learn how to become proper cowhands. Patsy falls off the horse multiple times, while the foreman watches and laughs with amusement. Not only that, even the aging father is forced to train, which makes him very dissatisfied. And the things that bring dissatisfaction do not end there. At night, the whole family gathers together, and after nearly a month of travel, they finally eat a hot meal. Chatting and laughing, only the old father remains silent. He is still troubled by working under the British, and continues to long for the barren land of Ireland. But Patsy thinks differently, as he believes this is only temporary. As long as they learn skills and save enough money, he will take the family away and find land that truly belongs to them. But no matter how he explains it, his father still refuses to accept his idea. A good meal ends in an atmosphere of deep awkwardness. The next day, the foreman takes them up the mountain to harvest timber. This kind of work is difficult for both young and old, and the youngest son is even scolded by the foreman. Then suddenly, an unexpected accident occurs. The old father and other workers are loading timber, when the latch of the carriage suddenly slips loose.
This guy. So bright.
In the end, the old father leaves this world, holding onto his stubborn pride. This devastating fate is something Patsy cannot bear. It is not until midnight that the 2 brothers finally drag their father's body back. The mother rushes forward anxiously to meet them, and the sight before her causes her to completely break down. This accident shatters the family's stable life, forcing Patsy to shoulder the responsibility of supporting the family far earlier than expected. He is consumed with guilt for persuading his father to come to Australia and for failing to protect him, and this guilt becomes the source of his lifelong resilience and determination. The next day, they invite a priest from the local area and bury their father according to Catholic rites. At the same time, the farm owner arrives at the scene in his carriage. He is not there to mourn, but because the contract originally required 3 male laborers, and now 1 is gone, he demands to revise the agreement by extending the term from 4 years to 8 years to make up for the loss. Only after the farm owner leaves does the mother fully realize what has happened. In order to free the family from the farm owner's control as soon as possible, Patsy begins to make plans. He first goes to a local gold mining company, where they are in need of a sharp-minded salesman, but Patsy is still a contracted laborer, and the boss rejects him on the spot. However, after learning that Patsy is also Irish and hearing about his journey, the boss feels sympathy and is willing to give him a chance. But when Patsy tells the farm owner about this, the man firmly refuses to let him go. A signed contract is protected by law, and it must be fulfilled for the full 8 years. The entire family is bound by the contract, and no one can be missing. If Patsy dares to run away, the farm owner will have the police chase him down, and the consequences would be severe. This is perhaps something Patsy had already anticipated. That very night, he still chooses to run. The next morning, instead of immediately pursuing him, the farm owner gathers the family and takes a different approach. With only one male laborer left, a girl must take his place. Sarah is chosen, even though she is not yet 20 years old. Whatever the farm owner says goes, and just like that, Sarah replaces her brother, puts on men's clothes, and cuts off her long hair as her mother watches in tears. From then on, Sarah rides horses and works with fierce determination, becoming a bold and capable cowgirl. Meanwhile, Patsy thrives in the gold mining business, diligently working as a salesman, until one night, when he sees a massive gold nugget, and something inside him is completely ignited. If he goes prospecting himself, he could earn the money to redeem his family much faster, so he takes advantage of his position and joins an Irish gold prospecting team. At the same time, the farm owner, seeking greater profit, sells the youngest daughter Mary to a wealthy household as a servant. The entire family is torn apart, and no one knows if they will ever reunite. In the blink of an eye, a year passes. On a clear morning, the mother unexpectedly spots a familiar figure. It is Patsy. The man carrying the mission of his family has returned. Patsy's return feels like a surge of strength for his mother, and his siblings, who rush over after hearing the news, are overjoyed. However, just as the family reunites, the farm owner steps out with a whip in hand. This boy dared to flee the farm before, and now he has the nerve to come back, which is utterly unacceptable. But Patsy uses the money he earned from gold prospecting to try to buy back the family's contracts.
Mr. Longman, I have £115 for you. I'll be taking my family.
Get off my land now!
We'll all be going the minute I've paid you.
You misunderstand me. You go, they stay.
The atmosphere becomes tense, yet Patsy is determined, and no one can stop the family from leaving, even as the uncle and aunt witness everything. At that moment, Patsy throws the money he earned onto the farm owner with force. He is no longer anyone's servant, and he will take his family away from this place forever, even inviting Jimmy, the indigenous man who once helped them, to join them. Life begins to show a new dawn, and regaining freedom is a happiness beyond words for the family. Now, the first thing Patsy must do is go to the local colonial administration to purchase a piece of land that belongs to him. But for an Irishman with no background, owning land here seems impossible, and the registrar rejects his request outright. At this moment, the financial boss who once helped him steps forward and offers to act as Patsy's guarantor. Even so, the registrar still hesitates. It turns out that the farm owner who once employed Patsy holds influence in the town, and the registrar fears offending him, so he does not dare make a decision easily. But Patsy cannot wait any longer, and he grabs a pen, urging the man to sign on the map. The registrar remains conflicted, but under Patsy's piercing gaze, he finally gives in. The moment the name is signed on the map, Patsy fulfills his father's lifelong dream of owning land. This marks their transformation from ordinary people into ranch owners, and it signifies the true beginning of the Durack family's legacy in Australia. And just like that, the family builds their own home beside a forest stream. As time passes, they begin to raise livestock, and under their careful care, herds of fine beef cattle grow stronger, and it is finally time to take them to the market and sell them for a good price. However, fate takes an unexpected turn, as these cattle should have been in high demand. Yet when the auctioneer calls for bids, he deliberately downplays Patsy's cattle as inferior, and the prices offered by the butchers on site are far below market value, leaving the siblings unable to accept it. Behind all of this is the English farm owner pulling the strings. He controls the local commodity market and intentionally forces the butchers to lower their bids, ensuring that the cattle Patsy worked so hard to raise cannot be sold, as a form of revenge for their past conflict. Now that things have come to this, Patsy decides to drive the cattle back and refuses to sell them. But at that moment, a rancher named Costello calls out to him. He is an Irishman who has lived in Australia since childhood, and he explains that in this region, cattle raised by Irish people are always sold to traders at low prices, and this situation has lasted for many years. Only then does Patsy realize that the English have been deliberately suppressing them, but this is not Ireland. It is a brand new colonial land, and he believes no one can drive them away from here. Yet the farm owner Longman and his allies control the town, and if they order that no one is to buy your cattle, then no trader will dare to take your reins. As the two argue back and forth, a beautiful young woman approaches them.
My sister Mary.
How's it going? Pleased to meet you.
We're at Tea Tree Station. You must come to visit.
Indeed we must.
The girl has a fresh and gentle appearance, but Patsy pays her little attention, still troubled by the fate of his cattle. Then he comes up with an idea. Since they are not welcomed by the British here, why not sell the cattle to the nearby mining area? There are thousands of gold prospectors there, but Longman does not allow sales outside of this market. If he insists on trying, that old man will stop him, but in Patsy's heart, nothing can defeat him. He decides to break the rules, believing that Irish people should stand united.
You have some stock, I understand, Mr. Costello?
My father has some stock.
Yes.
Perhaps everyone must find a way to survive in hardship, and through constant struggle and adversity, become stronger. Soon after, the siblings personally visit Costello's home, hoping to persuade his father to join them, but after hearing their intentions, the lady of the house keeps interrupting the conversation and asks where Patsy and his sister are from in Ireland. Her tone and manner are full of arrogance, making even her husband beside her feel embarrassed, so he invites Patsy to step outside to talk, leaving the women to chat inside. The lady's arrogance comes from the fact that she is English. She even knows that Sarah cannot play the piano, yet still asks her to try, and after the girl declines, she immediately asks her own daughter to play instead. Although Mary feels a bit embarrassed, she has no choice but to agree to her mother's request, which makes Sarah feel uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the three men have a pleasant conversation outside. Although the English have long suppressed them, this father has never sought revenge. Now that times have changed, Patsy's determination is firm, as he wants to carve out a new path for the Irish. He knows it is difficult to convince the man to join, but the older man says he is not of noble birth, and he still remembers the hardships of coming to Australia with his parents as a child. They originally had 10 siblings, but 4 of them died during the sea voyage, and those painful years are something he can never forget. So when they return to the room, the older man decides to join Patsy's plan and attempt to sell their cattle in the goldfields, but his wife is the first to oppose it.
And what will Mr. Longman think of such a partnership?
It's settled.
Mr. Longman might not see it that way.
Mr. Longman can think which way he likes, Mother.
Mary, you don't understand.
I do understand. You're saying we can't sell outside the market Mr. Longman and his friends control for fear of offending them. This is a new country. We can do as we like.
Sarah's words leave the siblings in high spirits on their way home. They never expected that a seemingly gentle woman could possess such strong ideas and courage. It also stirs something in Patsy, as he declares his intention to marry her. A woman like this would greatly help his ambitions, and now that he has met her, he will cherish the opportunity. Before long, Patsy hosts a gathering at his home, inviting neighbors from nearby areas, with special focus on inviting Mary's family. In fact, from the very first moment the girl saw Patsy, her heart was already drawn to him. As the crowd gradually disperses, the two of them go to a quiet place to talk alone, expressing their feelings for each other. Though Mary does not expect Patsy to propose so suddenly, but will her mother agree to this? Please subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next part.